Her digital art is whimsical, colorful, and quirky. She came into art while taking a gap year as she was experiencing depression and mental health issues, and while expressing herself and taking a much-needed break. She found herself launched into the business of art. Hello and welcome to Season 8 of the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, and I'm your host, Krista Good. My mission is to uncover the stories and strategies of Asian women entrepreneurs in Asia to help you and inspire you as you navigate your own business journey. This episode is sponsored by Redbox Studio. In today's episode, we meet Afi Sulaiman, a digital artist and illustrator in Malaysia. I was introduced to her by Michelle Yeo of Dandy as Afi and Dandy were collaborating. Michelle was a former guest of mine on this podcast, and she knew that I'll be open to meeting Afi. If you'd like to check out Michelle's episode where she talks about starting her restaurant business, look for episode 11 in season 2. I'll also link to her episode in the show notes. Afi is a millennial who was dabbling with digital art when she was in her gap year. At that time, she was undergoing mental health issues and looked towards art as a form of therapy and self-expression. Little did she know that this path would propel her into the limelight, and now she is a commissioned artist who works with corporate companies, small businesses, and individuals. In this episode, Afi and I speak about her journey as an artist and illustrator, gaining fame on Instagram, community support, how she deals with pro bono requests for her art and illustrations, her own mental health experiences, how she prices her art, how she determines which clients are a good fit for her, and what she thinks of art as a business and how she works at her business. I believe you enjoy this episode if you love art and business. Welcome, Afi, to Womenpreneur Asia.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Krista, for having me.
So, Afi, we have been talking even before we ended up recording this episode. And I'm really excited to have you here with me today because I want to talk about so many things that are intersect between art and business and talent and passion. Can you start from the very beginning now? How did Afi end up in this business? And of course, in that process, tell us what the business is all about.
Thank you, Krista, for the nice introduction. I studied architecture in Newcastle University, but I took a gap year due to my health. During the gap year, I stumbled upon Young Art Entrepreneur and the National Art Gallery of Malaysia. It's sort of like an art residency, so I got into it, and I love art. So that's how it came about, me just beginning art, and my health did decline and COVID happened. So it was like a sure thing. Like, I don't think I was meant to do my architecture degree abroad. So I came back to Malaysia and fully focused on my art. During that time, I did a lot of experimenting with digital collage as well as illustrations. And that's how people started noticing me. It was just through Instagram. Sometimes people ask, how do I get my clients? And including corporate clients, important clients. And I would say, they just send me a DM on Instagram. So it's all happy accidents that I never thought would be the path for me.
It sounds like you had an interesting start for your art business.
Yeah, it was very interesting in a sense that I just thought to myself, during this gap year, I want to be an artist. I told my mom with no prior family background in art. And it was all coincidental where I met the people of National Art Gallery. They were promoting young art entrepreneurs. So it was all just an intuitive kind of thing where I just followed my gut, and it led me to where I am today, happier as well, I would say.
So tell me about your art business. I know you're an artist and illustrator. I know you take commissions. What is the art business about? What are the kinds of art that you produce or create?
Okay, so I started off doing food illustrations. I am obsessed with food, especially nasi lemak. I couldn't stop drawing, and peranakan food. I dabble into pet portraits and family portraits, illustrating my own children's book, as well as doing corporate campaigns like key visuals. So I dabble in a lot of things about heritage and culture, as well as it's a modern take on how I do it. That's why I'm quite interested in what I do, because it's something not only am I passionate about, because I came from I wouldn't say third culture family background. It's a bit of it where I wasn't exposed to much of my cultural heritage. So I grew curious of it. That's how I started my art. I wanted to know more about my culture, identity, not just Malay culture, Chinese culture, because my grandmother is Chinese, but also the overall Malaysian culture.
And how would you describe your style?
Okay, that I would always describe myself as quirky. It's quirky, it's fun and whimsical.
And do you work with all kinds of media?
Technically, I'm just working with digital collage, but I have dabbled in acrylic paint, oil paint. I'm not a big fan of charcoal because I love my colors, bright and colorful, as well as beadings. I also do beadings on my artworks.
So you have got an interesting array of things going on for you as an artist and as illustrator. But talk to me a bit more about when you took that gap year. If it was not for that program, would you have known what you wanted to do, or it was just like, just want to take a break?
I knew I wanted to be an artist in Malaysia during the gap year, but I just did not know the process and how to do it. I remember clearly my process was that I would just paint and show it on my Instagram, but my Instagram only had a following of friends from college and university, as well as from school, my previous school, and family, as well as friends. So it wasn't something that could have helped me much until I got into the program. That's when I found out more about art. But how it was more of a solid foundation for me was during the COVID times, when I found out about digital collage purely by accident. A lot of creatives in Malaysia started noticing that I had a unique style, and they were very supportive of me. They were very nice towards me. They would share my artwork almost daily towards their own following. That's how I started to realize, like, oh, this is a community that I really want to get involved with, really want to be a part of. Artists supporting each other.
That is interesting, because to have other artists be so supportive, that is something wonderful, isn't it?
Yes, it just makes you feel like you're in the right track, you're in the right place. I've seen other artists begin as how I started off, getting that much support. So it's not just because I was lucky. I think they're just supportive of every artist that they see has potential and has that soul towards creating their art.
So since other artists are supporting your art, so maybe this is a good time to ask you, do you have a favorite artist? What art do you like?
I really, like I said, I'm into heritage and all, so I really like artworks like Kidi Baharudin and Ika Sharong. Their works are a bit of like Malaysian style, retro Malaysian style comical characters, but it's very colorful, but it brings to life. Then I also like Azza Sultan. Her works have that interwoven between modern as well as cultural as well. So these kind of artists, I know it's not really a typical answer. Usually people will say Van Gogh or like Leonardo da Vinci.
Some Western artists, right?
Some Western artists, but I've always grew up admiring the local artists. Like, I think it's because my mom used to take me to Concord Hotel in Shah Alam, and they had Khairul Mukhtar's work in almost every nook and cranny, and I was so in awe of it.
And I think your mom must have been the one who set you on this path to be an artist, even from back then.
Yeah, she did. Actually, I took piano lessons. She wanted me to be good in the piano. So art classes was just a filler for me. when I was a kid. But then she began to notice that I'm not really good at playing the piano, however much I practice. But I am very passionate. I could sit in the art class for 5 hours straight and just paint and draw.
And how old were you at that?
I was around. I started at 8, but because the art teacher was next door to my mom's dental clinic, so she let me stay for 5 hours free of charge when I was in my early teens.
So from there, you already developed this interest.
Yes, and and my mom was very supportive, and she also had to accept I'm not gonna be that typical Asian that knows how to play the piano and excel in her studies. I mean, I did excel in my studies, but I was also passionate about art instead.
And as I'm talking to you, I'm just also thinking that when you came to art, you were already in your 20s.
Yes,
And so when you came to when you started art in your 20s, how would it have been different if you started it when you were a teenager, when you were really young and you decided that, yes, I want to be an artist versus like, I want to be an artist when I'm 20?
Didn't want to be an artist per se, but I wanted to be a writer since I was a kid. I was in love with reading. I still am. But art, I would say if I did start it out, it's not going to be a politically correct answer, if you don't mind, because if I did started out art as a kid and grew up, there could be two potential things that could happen to me. If people did like my art, I think I will be a snob, an artist snob, like very like, oh, I'm good at what I do, thing like that. But if people didn't like my art, I think I would grow to resent myself. So, that's the beauty of how it worked out. I discovered art as a profession when I was in my 20s. It was something that it just came naturally. It was more of a passion that became a talent, that became a profession, rather than I focus it as my lifelong journey to be an artist forever.
So interestingly, you came to it in your 20s. So I guess your perspective about art is also different if you came to it when you're in your teens, right? Or when you were a very young child.
I would like to imagine humans are complex. We can do a lot of things. We don't need to be stuck in one thing that we're talented about or one thing we're passionate about. We can expand our interests, expand our talents and passions to create something out of it.
That is where the paradigm of talent and passion, right? So in your world, or when you were growing up, was there so much of focus on this? Like, you have to be talented, therefore only you can succeed in this?
My parents were the stereotypical Asian parents. They were helicopter parents, and they would ask me to be talented in my studies. I had to study as much as possible. I had to be productive as much as possible. That was before both me and my sister got diagnosed with mental health disorders. They had a lot of unlearning to do. They had a lot of acceptance that self-care is actually also important. Burning out, like forcing yourself to be productive 24/7 is not healthy. I think that's a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions that we grew up, especially in our age, where we grew up thinking like if we were to take a nap, it's not productive. If we were to do something during our free time that involves playing games or something that does not gain further insight on life or knowledge, it's not productive. So, and it wasn't just my parents that had to unlearn a lot of things. I had to unlearn that as well.
So in your case, you were an A student, right?
I wouldn't say I was a straight A student, but I tried my best. I got straight A's for them. I got straight A's for the important exams like UPSR, PMR, and SPM.
And how do you feel being an A-star student?
That's what I'm saying, that then you think you're smart and you think you don't need to work harder because of it. So it's also a con in itself.
And did you have to unlearn that for yourself too? I mean,
yes,
it's not just
I did.
Parents, right? It's social conditioning people telling you that you must do these required things in order to be seen as productive or smart or intelligent versus non-productive. So I guess in that sense, probably you say, oh, but art is not so productive, right? Or drawing or creative pursuits.
Yeah, so I'm still unlearning these kind of things where I'm like, okay, art is my business. I have to treat it as a business instead of being passionate about it. So in that sense, I'm still unlearning, because I try to work into a 9 to 5 kind of job for art as well, which sometimes you can potentially get burnt out. You can get tired.
Even in art, right?
Yeah, even in art. Yes, exactly. Even in art, when you treat it as something that has to be productive, has to be something that brings in the money for your business.
And there's something like a paradox also, right? I mean, sometimes I think about it. This is very interesting because when art is done at leisure, like when Afi Sulaiman was doing it just for fun, for leisure, just drawing, versus Afi Sulaiman now doing it as a business, it's like two different perspectives on the art, right? And is it difficult? Is it difficult for you? When you talk about being an artist, it is about being creative. But creativity is not something you turn on and turn off. It's not like, okay, 9 a.m., I'm going to start my creativity engine.
Yes,
and 5 p.m., I'm going to stop it, right? And the end of the day is end of the day. But you don't get that with art, because sometimes, as someone who writes, sometimes I feel this desire to write a lot. And sometimes there's no desire to write at all.
Correct. That's why I'm still unlearning that process, where sometimes I will get a creative block, and then it's okay to do other things just to get that inspiration again, to start again. Because sometimes I will do corporate clients' works or personal private clients' works of art, and it sort of brings into the 9 to 5. But at night, even though it's still art, I would be doing something that I like instead.
So these are not the commission. These are not the commission pieces.
Yes, it's not the commission pieces. Yeah, so it's that mindset. Yeah, that you have to bring that. It could be the same thing, but it could also have different meanings and different perspectives that why you are doing it.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. But you're still doing art, so you're basically doing art. Well, minus 8 hours for sleep. You're doing art 16 hours. It's 16 hours a day, right? I mean, after technically the business hour, you are also figuring out the art for yourself. It's like a therapy, but the other part is art as business.
Yeah, so that's why I have to make sure like I slide in my reading time, slide in other things that like cooking or just sleeping, for instance, instead of just focusing on trying to be productive and churning out stuff that's creative all the time.
Yeah. So then it brings me to this point of art as a business. You mentioned earlier that people started sharing your art and you started to get more and more well-known, and now you have a thriving business with corporates coming to you and commissioning art pieces and all that. So maybe you can take us through a process. What happens when someone says, okay, Afi, I would like to work with you. What are we working at, or what is the outcome? I'm not too sure how I term it. What's the art or what's the outcome of that?
Okay, so usually when people approach me, I would suggest for either virtual meeting or they would suggest for a physical meeting. Then that's when we discuss further on what their business is about or what they're into me wanting to do. I usually go straight to business because I know some of them are quite busy. Some of them are, like, especially corporate clients, small businesses. I don't want to waste their time doing small talk that much. Sometimes they're quite shocked because I'm like very playful and like whimsical and look young. But when I talk to them about business, it's just down to business. There's no small talk that much except of how are you. Then they'll go straight to what do you do. So after that, after we have reached a middle ground on what we can collaborate as, together, then I will send in a proposal to them. It's usually mood boards or consisting of inspirations and color palettes and all that. It's a choice. I usually send around 3 in one proposal. So they have 3 types of concept ideas that they can choose and play around with. And then we start going to the designing part, which is actually fun in a way. Just trying to get more in depth on that one concept and expanding it. So pricing, this is another thing I have to learn, because like sometimes I will be so interested in a project, I will forget to ask them about the pricing or the budget. And I will be halfway. That's when I'm like, I forgot to discuss about the pricing. But I'm thankful because most of my clients, when they approach me, that's another part of business where right now I wait for clients to approach me because they don't mind what kind of pricing or budget. So they don't try to exploit me because they truly appreciate my art. They truly want to work with me. So that's the part I'm very thankful of.
So it's easier when they come and approach you versus you going out and pitching your art to them, right?
Yes, because I've tried that, pitching my art. It works for other industries, but for me, art, when I pitch to some of the clients that I love working with, they have that perception that, oh, she likes us more than we want her, so we can exploit her or ask her for like discounts or just pay her with exposure. So that's why I had to learn it the hard way.
But you learn fast.
Yes, I'm hoping I do learn fast.
What's a typical project budget if you are able to just give a ballpark figure? What are the ranges you're looking at?
For small businesses, it starts around 1K to 5K, and for corporate clients it starts 5K and above, but it's all up for negotiation.
And you learned the business on your own, or did you have a mentor? Did someone coach you?
So I studied about business a bit during my time with Young Art Entrepreneur by the National Art Gallery. I also have an art coach, Melo Mohtar. She teaches me on how to know my worth, because sometimes I'm so eager to work with someone because I love their business proposal and all that I tend to undercharge. So she teaches me on how to make sure I charge I wouldn't say the correct amount, but charge my worth without being like, isn't this too expensive, like doubting myself. But for art itself, creating art, that's usually on my own control.
So it seems that you actually have a great head start in the business. You've had a lot of good community support from fellow artists, right?
Yes.
But was there anything that was a challenge in your way when you were trying? Of course, you mentioned just now, right? When you pitch your clients or the potential clients, they would think that, oh, you're so eager to work with them, so they may not value you as much as when they approach you, right? When you attracted them into your world. So were there any specific challenges along this journey of art as a business?
One of the specific challenges is meeting deadlines, because I'm freelancing. So deadlines sometimes is a challenge for me because I tend to overpromise, thinking like I can do it in a short time, until I get that creative block. It's not the typical 9-to-5 job that I would expect. That's when I realized like, oh, I have to ask for an extension. When I first started was that I just began, and family and friends, they wanted to support me. That's when I learned the cold hard truth that sometimes all you can require from your family and friends is just support by sharing your art. You shouldn't expect them to buy, because that's when they will slide in. Sometimes it's just acquaintances from your school or from the mutuals. They will come like, hey, can I get a family friend discount? And of course, you don't want to be rude and say like no, but at the same time, you start questioning like, why? Because sometimes that discount is more than 80%. is what they're requesting. Sometimes it's free. So like that's something I had to learn the hard way. Specifically, I had when I just started out, I had someone that approached me. I guess that person saw the potential, so they wanted me to design a packaging for their product for 50 ringgit, and I was like, I was okay with it until they started asking me to edit it like more than 10 times. That's when I realized, like, I don't think this project is for me, and I don't think you're looking for my design. So I had to let go of that project, and until now they've never said hi to me. So it was, but when they did approach me, it was because they wanted something. That's unfortunately the cold hard truth, where I had to accept, like, some people will take advantage of you and claim their family or friends. I mean, mostly friends. So I will always have to set that boundary that you can just like my post or you can share it to your Instagram, and that is more than enough support for me.
What happens if someone, just say a friend, comes to you and say, "Hey, Afi, I love your work. Could you do something for just a ridiculously low amount?" What would you say to that person then? I mean, right now you have learned that, right? You have learned that you should value your work and value your art. So what would you say to people like that?
Exactly. I would have to analyze their friendship, because sometimes I do offer when they're close friends. But if they're just more of like someone that went to the same school but we never talk, I would say like, I'm. Is this gonna sound mean of me? Because I'm gonna be truthful to them.
Yes, be truthful
to them. I would tell them like, hey, you and I have never talked, or you and I aren't close enough for you to be asking this. I don't think I am that artist for you, because currently I am in no position to accept pro bono work.
That's not mean. I think that's quite.
For me, I feel like it's me because but it's something that is the reality of things. Some people will want to take advantage of you, and you just have to stand your ground, which I have difficulties, because sometimes I do think I'm a pushover at times, which is unfortunate.
I think you love art, and I think I can sense it from the way you talk. It's like you love art and you want to share that art or the creative expressions with other people. Except that, of course, out there are all kinds of people, right? People who will take advantage and exploit you and just pay you like 50 ringgit for taking up all your time. It's not even the artwork, it's taking up all your time, your hours, right? We could have been spent doing something more interesting, even if it's painting for yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, correct. That's why now I am very a bit more pickier with the clients that choose me as well.
So when the clients come to you, and because I've seen your style, Afi, so your style is, like you said, quirky, whimsical, playful, and also colorful. Would you also be, in a way, judging them? Like trying to figure out, are they the best fit for you?
For instance, the client comes up to me for something simpler, which is a client has something more minimalist. I don't judge them for the brand, the key visuals they're looking for, but I will judge them for their values and principles as their business goes. If they have a similar value and principles as me, I will still accept that client. Because for me, I think branding isn't just about the looks, it's about sharing the same values and principles. Yeah.
But what if you find out that what if they tell you, I'm not too sure what my values and principles are? I mean, maybe you're probably the first creative person to ask them. But honestly, some businesses have no idea, right?
Yeah, I think that would be the first for me, because most businesses they tend to introduce themselves in such a way that I can understand the values and principles without having to ask them directly, but they are all about. But if they weren't too sure and they're more of corporate, they just want like
art, right? They just want art. Yeah.
I would probably have to see on the creative side, that in that sense, where are they something that I can communicate or something that I can deliver for them that they will be satisfied with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, because sometimes art is not just like a product, like a book, right? It's not like something like you see, you like it, you buy it. Because the creation of the art happens only when you agree on what
correct.
you want to work together, and you want to create something for this brand or this company. So they haven't seen anything yet until they see it.
Yes, that's true. So they will have to, that's why it's more of how we communicate with each other and how we discuss and how the overall result will look like. And I will give them like 3 chances to have editing, where if they're not keen on how it looks like, the final result, then I will edit it 3 times, free of charge.
And if 4th time, you kick them out.
The 4th time I will charge them extra.
Okay. But it's interesting, right? I mean, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because unlike a regular business that makes, just say, a product, or a tangible product, art is really interesting, because art is something that both of us have to agree on how it will be at the end, right? But we're going through this process together. So imagine if I were commissioning you to do something for me, I wouldn't even see it until maybe after a couple of weeks, or maybe after a month, then we can see the final output together. And then from there, we can start to tweak it, right? If there's like colors or things that I want to change. That's why I find it's such a unique business.
Yes, it definitely is, because it's not something that you can expect straight away. It's a process that we have to go through it. The client and the artist have to go through it together.
Do you have a favorite client story?
Yes, I do actually. I think if it was design based, it will be Nita Cosmetics. Nita Cosmetics, she's such a lovely lady. She and I have shared the same personal values and principles, and she asked me to design her wedding packaging, and it was something that it's not just personal values and principles. It was the fact that the colors are also very specific. I have 3, you don't mind me sharing the clients.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the Nita Cosmetics. So it was so fun. It was about a traditional Malay wedding. That was my first ever handling something like that. The second is Cups. Cups is very interesting, because when the co-founder out of 4 approached me through Instagram, and it was about babies, a baby product. And Cups it was about a baby product that I instantly said, like, I've never done any packaging. Like, they asked for a brand identity. They gave me full creative freedom. They're still giving me that full-on creative freedom to design their packaging however I want, and a brand identity. And they're so nice. This is the kind of people that I really appreciate, like, including the final one is Dandy. So Dandy is more of a collaboration. It's a barter system instead of a paid gig, because it's something that is a worth it kind of barter system, where we have the same vision that we want to build a community together. We want to help each other out. So that, and of course, like Nita, they're very colorful, very fun. So it was fun to create the seasonal menu for them. These people, they show that they're human. They show the emotions. They show that they appreciate me as a human instead of just a factory that will turn out artworks for them for their business to grow. So it makes me more passionate about what I do, and for them as well.
So it seems that you get a lot of clients from Instagram. Is that your core marketing channel?
Yes, it is. And I don't even pay for any ads.
Yeah, you're
Yes,
really
and
lucky.
since I'm
Because a
very
lot of
lucky
people
and blessed. Yes.
pay for ads to attract their target audience, and
Yeah.
some fail spectacularly, right?
Yeah.
Or some don't even get anywhere close to the kinds of
Yeah.
things that you're doing in your business, right? So I find it particularly interesting that you are attracting so many people from Instagram.
I think we had this conversation before where we attract the same kind of people that has the same intentions. If you have good intentions and you put in your heart and soul to something you love, the same kind of people will do the same to you.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And you also have I think you're different in a way, and I can see why people gravitate to you is because you have, like I told you before, right? You have this purity, this real purity in you, which is like a purity of the soul. It's not just purity as like, some people right? Like some people put on certain facade when they see you, or some people just act differently in different situations. But I think for you, regardless of whether you're working with corporate or working with a small business, or even working to do someone's wedding, is it? Was it a wedding?
Oh, it was her wedding, but because she owns Nita Cosmetics, it was her wedding. So she
even a wedding, right?
For that, I'm just passionate. I think you have to have that level of equality towards every client. They're important.
So if somebody says, Afi, oh, I love your story and you've got such a great journey as an artist and an illustrator, and of course running your own business, what will be your top tips if somebody say, I want to be following your path, I want to be like you?
I will be flattered because I have a long way to go, but my top tips would probably be just make sure you do it because it's something you're passionate about. Make sure you do it because you have the right intentions, because people are not dumb. They can see through you if you're trying to fake it, trying to chase clout. So make sure your intentions are on the right path, and those similar people will go to you, will start to gravitate towards you. That's one. And another thing, if they want to be a creative, an artist, I would say like focus on community first instead of focusing on trying to make it to the top. Instead of healthy competition is okay, but trying to see other artists as competitors that you have to like overcome is not really going to help you out.
From what you're telling me, they're very supportive, right? So have you come across any unsupportive artists?
I'm not gonna name names, obviously. I have, but it was more of an awkward interaction because most of the supportive artists that I know are around my age or generation. I'm a millennial, not a Gen Z. Just we have to get that. But even Gen Zs, they're very supportive. They know the importance of community. Some of the artists that are a bit more reserved and also a bit more wary, maybe because they've had their fair share of bad experiences, is the older generation artists. I wouldn't say they're gatekeeping it, but it's more because they've had their fair share of bad experiences when they don't gatekeep. So they're more picky in the sense on who to trust. And I understand that. So I've had like my share of like interacting with some of them. And most of them, they grew up in a very traditional upbringing where it's Malay, and I'm, like I said, a third culture kid that doesn't know how to speak Malay that well. So it goes very awkward when I'm trying to interact with them, saying like, oh, I love your work. Then they're like eyeing me up and down, that kind of thing, because of how I present myself.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's go back into the third culture aspect, because I think you mentioned it a couple of times. Talk to me about that. What is it about that cultural heritage? I know you said that your mom is Chinese, Is your mom Chinese?
No,
your
my grandmother Chinese.
Your grandmother's Chinese, yeah. So how is all these dynamics playing out in your work?
It's more of that mixed heritage. It interests me how we as Malaysians, we can live in harmony together most times, despite our differences, and that harmony is usually about food. It doesn't matter what race you are in Malaysia. If it's good food, we're gonna say it's good food. As a third culture kid, I would say because it's more of my grandparents. My parents are working. They were born and raised in Klang Valley, but my paternal grandparents are they both are the Chinese one. The paternal grandmother and the grandfather is Malay, married, and the Chinese grandmother was adopted by a Malay family. So she grew up in a very Malay driven culture. So if you were to tell her is she Chinese or Malay, she wouldn't admit she's Chinese. But she really loves her Malay culture because she only managed to go back to her Chinese family, to jaga silaturahim Malay, as in to meet them when she was in her late teens. So that's why she grew up very strong in the Malay beliefs, Malay culture. But my maternal grandparents, they're Malay. They're fully Malay from kampung. One is from Johor, one is from Kedah. But they study abroad. They work hard to study abroad. So they're very westernized. So when I go back to kampung, can you imagine? Kampung is a fruit orchard. Durians, rambutans and all that. But we will have tea parties. They taught me how to dance the twist. And the photos are all of their Western outfits. So that's why it inspires me how we can mix that kind of, it's based on nature and nurture kind of thing. Mix that kind of culture together.
So which do you enjoy most? Which kampung?
Because my grandmother, the paternal grandparents, live in Shah Alam. So I only have one kampung now, which is in Johor. But I really do enjoy both of them equally. It's just I rarely go to the Johor one because it's a bit further. But I love them both equally. And this is not a politically correct. It's actually true. I really love them both equally. Yeah, because it's different perspectives. Every time you go back to visit any one of them, it's all different perspectives, different stories, and it ties back in that family is very important to me. That family value as well as preserving your culture, but embracing new traditions,
which is also showcased in your work, right?
Yes, correct.
So your work has elements of those.
Yes, yes, correct. So my work, even though it has the subject matter of Eastern culture, it is presented in a way that even Western people can appreciate because of how I do it, the Western techniques I use.
I just enjoy the fact that we're talking about art because I like art. Wherever I go, I just look at art. And in fact, when I was in Indonesia, I went and visited this fantastic art museum. And through art, it is actually a lot of it is storytelling.
Yes, correct. Art is all about storytelling.
Yeah.
That's the fun of it. And sometimes it can create different stories from it. And that's totally okay.
Yeah. And from that story, people are also finding things they have in common, right? Like just say food. So if you create art about food, people start talking about the favorite food, things that they like, or in your case, you like nasi lemak. So you created a book about nasi lemak.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the book. So at least, people listening will know hey, Afi has a book about nasi lemak.
So the book, everyone in Malaysia loves nasi lemak. So the book is basically about how before nasi lemak, the rice nasi lemak came to be, he doesn't have anyone that wants to be friends. Anyone from the different types of rice dishes in Malaysia, around Malaysia. So because of his size. So it's something interesting because it was a nautical story that I just told my cousin about, and he was like, he inspired me. He told me like, you're full of like imagination. Why don't you just write a story about it? So I did. I did write a story about it, and I self-published it. The illustrations were done by me. The editor was Bridget Rosario, as well as the characters were made to life even more by Graphic Carl or Kalisa Aida. So that's why it's something I'm passionate about. That was my passion project, because I told you before, I wanted to be a writer, a children's book author since I was a kid. So getting to actually achieve that is still my proudest moment.
I believe that accomplishing like your milestones, especially the ones that you set for yourself when you're very young, and then when you get it, it's a different kind of satisfaction, right? It's like finally you've hit that goal that you set for way back. When you had that idea, it wasn't even reality yet.
Yes, correct. Because as kids, we're always taught to believe like, oh, we can dream about to be anything, but we're just kids, so it will change when we grow up. So having to achieve that kid dream I had, is something so satisfactory for me. It was something like, oh my gosh, my kid self knows me better than my adult self sometimes.
Now, Afi, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about mental health. I know this is a topic that you're open to talking about, and that is something that you want to also educate and create awareness around. How did you get started into, like you were sharing with me previously before we got recording, is that you do volunteer with an NGO on mental health? Yeah.
Yes, I volunteer for Miasa quite recently. Miasa is based in Klang Valley, the HQ, I think, in Petaling Jaya. So I'm an art instructor. So mental health is something that is very important to me. It's because it was the reason why I had to take the gap year from university, as well as not just because of COVID, but I had to go back to Malaysia permanently because I couldn't cope with my mental health spiraling down because of a misdiagnosis. So during that misdiagnosis, I was taking the wrong kind of medication. Medication is a very sensitive subject for a few people with mental health issues, but it's reality that a lot of people, they have stigma around this. They assume that medication is an excuse. But what we don't understand is some people, like myself, I'm diagnosed with schizophrenia with depression. It's something that cannot be cured. It's something that if I don't take my medication, the correct ones, I will spiral down and I can't even act normal. So this medication is more of, it doesn't help you improve or reduce the symptoms. It's more of, it helps you reduce the symptoms so you can function normally. You can function at least the bare minimum. But it's something that we have to realize it's not a magic pill, that we have to take in charge on how we want to control our life. So I volunteer as an art instructor just to educate people on not just mental health awareness, but on how to express ourselves. Because unfortunately, most times in Asia, we stigmatize mental health. We believe that it is something we shouldn't say it out loud, and we shouldn't even be proud to say it. I'm not saying I'm proud to have it, but it's reality that I do have it. So it's different ways of expressing ourselves, not just through words, but it could be through art, it could be through singing, just to let it out, just to let that mental health struggles channel through healthily instead of abusing it or self-sabotaging until we harm ourselves or harm others from it.
So how has it been for you ever since you came onto this art business? Because you use art as an outlet for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And now after that, it became a business. So has it influenced you in any way? Has it helped you in any way? Or has it given you different ways of thinking about mental health?
Yes, it has. Because before I started it as a business, my art was very dark, actually. You wouldn't imagine it.
I cannot imagine.
Colorful colors. Yes, I would still wear colorful clothes, but my art was black and white with a bit of red, a lot of scariness that my mom was saying, like, if you paste it around your walls, it's going to attract more dark energy. Please put it away, that kind of thing. And that's when I realized, that's when I started, like, not just the medication, but also when I started exercising and trying to build a more balanced, healthier lifestyle. That's when my art started becoming more happier, more cheerful, but it still can raise awareness on mental health. I will use positive affirmations. It isn't as dark because it's a good coping mechanism, because I know how to let it out in other ways, which is through exercise, building up the happy hormones, eating the medication, making sure I eat and eat when the meal time comes, as well as getting enough sleep. The basic things that we tend to take advantage of thinking it's not important. It's actually important for a good mental health. So that's why my art has become more cheerful, because I know how to overcome it in other ways, and I can concentrate on being me through my art. Before this, my art was more of trying to channel out all the resentment I had towards myself. Why me? Why am I the one with all this mental health disorders affecting my thinking, having all these dark thoughts?
So that's where your art is also a reflection of your own journey.
Yes, correct.
So it didn't start out with Afi being colorful and whimsical and quirky.
Yes, it did not. It started off with Afi being depressed and dark, but she still wanted to wear colorful clothes. So people would, and she still smiled a lot. I have a resting smile face. So people did not understand why I was such a cheerful person, but inside I am so dark.
But eventually it became not only it reflected who you are on the outside, inside now, but it also helped you make something out of it. It's not just make peace with yourself, but also turn it into something that other people can appreciate. And that's where I guess all the people are trying to come and say, Afi, I want to work with you or collaborate with you to do something. art project.
I hope those people maintain in my life.
So if you looked at your journey, who has been the most inspirational in your entire journey?
The most inspirational is my mother. She has been my number one fan, despite me sometimes thinking she's not. She has been my number one fan, my number one supporter since I was a young girl. And I'm saying she's my mother now, because she has to unlearn a lot of things, like I said before. She was from the stereotypical Asian parent that wants you to get straight A's, wants you to play the piano or the violin, wants you to take ballet classes. Ballet classes. She has to accept that, yes, I am not going to be that perfect Asian child growing up. And she unlearned a lot of things, which makes it more inspirational, because she is 56 years old and she not just willingly tries to unlearn it, but trying her best to unlearn the things that are toxic about raising a child, raising a daughter. So that's why I appreciate her more than anything. I appreciate how it's hard when you grew up in a different generation where your parents were very strict, and having to unlearn that it's not going to work with another generation. So I have to acknowledge she is my biggest inspiration, because she is.
So she's also part of your journey.
Yes,
as you undertake your journey.
Yes.
Have you drawn your mom in any way?
I have drawn my mom a lot of times. Every year she expects me to draw a raya portrait of her as well, and family. But I have also dedicated some of my works for her. If not, like, she's very shy, but every time I get to bring her up, I will. So this is one of the opportunities. Because it's very hard to draw her face. She's very critical of herself, in a sense, like, oh, can you make me skinnier? Why does my cheeks look puffy like that? So I dedicate works that aren't of her face, but more of what she taught me, the values she taught me.
Well, now that you have come this far in your journey. How many years has it been since you started your art as business?
I started in 2019, so it's been like 4 years.
2019, 2020.
5 years.
5 years. 5 years.
5 yeah.
So in your 5 years, it's been interesting 5 years with everything that you've done in your life. So for the person listening to our interview or our episode today, what would be the takeaway or the final takeaway that you want a person to take to heart or to think a little bit more? Yeah.
Really, the takeaway is that in life, like I said, humans are complex. We shouldn't stick ourselves in a box where we have to follow one path. The road is not going to be a straight line. There's going to be a lot of curves, a lot of winding roads, and that a lot of different directions, and that's totally okay. Like I would say in passion, you have different passions. You can totally go to any one you want, because the road is not a straight path and it's not going to be straightforward. So why not get the best out of it? As long as you have the right intentions on doing it, as long as you are truthful to yourself, good things will come back to you.
That's wonderful. That's really a good analogy for how life and business, right?
Yes, exactly. Life and business.
Quick one before we get to the end, the final question. What's your favorite drink?
My favorite drink is, oh my gosh, ice.
What's your favorite color?
Favorite color? I want to say pink. Because it's been pink lately, but usually it's blue and purple, but it's pink now, I think. I'm doubly sure.
Okay, favorite song?
Favorite song is Two Door Cinema Club's Sun.
Okay. Favorite food? Don't say nasi lemak. If you say
Tom
you can't say nasi lemak.
I love Tom Yum, man. It's just yum with white rice and like telur mata.
Okay. Sunny side up. Okay. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie is American Beauty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, final one. Favorite thing to say?
Favorite
a mantra.
Mantra. Oh, okay, a mantra. So my mantra has always been like, nothing worth having comes easy. But that has been me growing up. But I think as of late, it's been like, I am open to listening what the universe has to offer.
Were you always fighting that?
Fighting. I was.
The universe messages.
Yeah. Before this, I would have been like more. I have had high expectations of myself. So now I have to like. So if it doesn't go my way, I will cry. Like, as in, when I didn't get the uni I wanted, I would cry for days thinking, why? I tried my best. Like that. So now I have to accept, like, if I don't get with something, it's because the universe has another message for me that is more meaningful.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, sometimes, the alternative path may not be a rocky one, by the way. And in your case, it has been proven true. Because look at how you started. I think when you started, how you evolved as an artist and an illustrator, it has made a difference in other people's lives too. Because imagine if the world didn't have Afi and her art. Think about that. Right? I mean, imagine there's a hole, right? Right now, Afi is filling that hole or filling that gap. But imagine there was no Afi and there was no Afi's art. What kind of world would that
I flatter you. I don't know, because that's the dark Afi coming out. He wants to say something dark, but I'm gonna stop myself from saying it.
So sometimes these are some of the things that we can. I mean, it happens to all of us, right? The best of us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't see how it is or the impact or the influence that it makes on someone's lives until, of course, the person comes and tells you. But that's the reality, right? The reality is that you are creating something that is helping someone or impacting someone in a positive way. Okay, this is a really final question. Where can people find you online if they want to connect with Afi and find out more about your art?
Okay, they can just find me on Instagram, Afi Sulaiman, AFISULAIMAN.
Thank you. I knew it's gonna be interesting, but I didn't know how interesting it would be. But you made it truly colorful in your own way.
Thank you so much, Krista, for having me. I had so much fun, more than expected.
And I hope you continue to share your art with the world and more colors, more good stuff coming your way.
Thank you so much, Krista, for having me. And I can't wait for this season.
The season to open and this episode to air, right? And you can share with all your friends.
And the other guests as well.
Especially the guests who introduced us. So here's a shout out to Michelle of Dandy, who has been such a kind person to introduce me to Afi. This is the beauty, right, of people connecting with people, is that when you find good people, they will always recommend good people to each other.
Thank you, Madam Michelle, for introducing a new friend to me as well.
Who would have thought that a gap year would transform Afi's life and mental health? Afi Sulaiman may be a millennial entrepreneur, but she's on the right track to making it big. What I love most is the emphasis on having the right intention and aligned values. As an aside, I've always enjoyed art primarily because my husband and business partner is an artist. In our home, we have mostly his artwork, created in acrylic, adorning our walls. When we travel, we look out for art museums to visit, as I believe we can learn so much from art, as art is a powerful form of storytelling about culture, politics, society, and even the artist's life and thoughts. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the podcast and share this episode with a friend. If you missed anything, never fear. You can find everything you need for today's episode on womenpreneurasia.com. Until next time, thank you for listening, and I look forward to reconnecting with you in our next episode.